Okay, so today we're going to be talking about solving right triangles. And when we're solving, we're looking for the solutions or the values of each of the triangles. And so let's look at this first one. Okay, and I think the first thing is we're looking for all the sides and all the angles. And the first important thing is look to see what you have two of. Okay, and the given values are these two sides and an angle. And so the one that we have two of, that's what we start with. And so we're starting with to find the third side. So if AC is going to be 5 centimeters, and then AB is going to be 8 centimeters, to find this missing side, we're going to do the Pythagorean theorem to find that third side. So start with, if you know two angles, find the third angle first. Okay, and so in this case, we know two sides, so find the third side. So you're going to go 5 squared plus b squared, or x squared, is equal to 8 squared. And so that'd be 25 plus b squared, or x squared, or whatever you want to call it, is 64 minus 25 from both sides. You get 39, take the square root, and then it's going to be 6.2 centimeters. Always label it. Look to see what they want you to round to. Okay, it'll tell you. Or if they don't tell you, you got to pick. You get to pick. So the first thing is find the third. If you know two sides, find the third side by using the Pythagorean theorem. If you know two angles, find the third angle first. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to find the remaining items. Okay, you know angle C is 90 degrees, so therefore you've got to find the other two angles. You're going to use trigonometry to find the last two of each thing. So to find the measure of angle A, we're going to go stand at A and say that's our angle. So angle A is going to be with reference to angle A, okay, side 5 is the adjacent leg, and 8 is the hypotenuse. You do need to know SOHCAHTOA. So sine is the opposite leg of the hypotenuse, cosine is the adjacent leg of the hypotenuse, and TOA, tangent, is the opposite leg over the adjacent leg. And so you're like, okay, which trigonometric ratio will help us find angle A? Well, talking about the adjacent leg and the hypotenuse would be cosine. And so you would say cosine of angle A, or theta, is equal to 5 over 8. Okay, to solve it for theta, you're going to do the inverse cosine of both sides. So theta is equal to the inverse cosine of 5/8. And therefore, you do second cosine of 5/8, and you'll get the answer to be 51 degrees. Most of the time, I'll ask you to round it to the nearest degree, and in this case, it's 51 degrees. So in the last two things that you're solving for, you're going to use trigonometry, and you can only use the given values. Okay, so you can't use 6.2, you can't use 51. You need to only go with the ones that are given in the problem. And so if we want to find the measure of angle B, we're going to go to angle B and stand there. Okay, and be like, hey, if I'm at angle B, how would you name the sides that are given? Well, if you name those sides, you're going to say this right here is the opposite leg, and this is the hypotenuse. And you're going to find the angle that talks about the opposite leg from angle B and the hypotenuse. Well, that's going to be sine. So sine of angle B, or we can call it theta if you want to, is going to equal the opposite leg, which is 5, over the hypotenuse, which is 8. Do the inverse sine to both sides to get theta by itself. If you put that in your calculator, you're going to get the value to be, theta is going to be 39 degrees. If you did this correctly, all three angles should add to be 180 degrees. Now, I do expect on the last two steps that you use trigonometry using only given values to find those answers. On part 2, look and see what they're given. They gave us, okay? We don't know two sides, so what do we know two of? We know two angles. We know angle R and angle Q are going to be as shown. So Q is going to be 90 degrees, and angle R is 68 degrees. So you're going to use the triangle sum theorem to say, okay, well, then that means if you add these three up, you're going to get 180 degrees. So 180 minus 90 and minus 68 will give us 22 degrees. Okay, so you always find the third. Okay, so if you know two angles, find the third angle. If you know two sides, find the third side. Okay, then the next thing I'm going to do is that you're going to find the missing sides. Okay, and so given angle R, okay, always go with what you're given. We got to find those two missing sides. So I'm going to name one X and name one Y. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to. Okay, so from angle R's perspective, the angle we know, again, you can't use things that you aren't given, okay, to find the next step. So you're going to say, okay, to find angle, the side X and side Y, you're going to say, if I label the sides that X and Y, this is the opposite leg, this is the adjacent leg that they gave us, and this is the hypotenuse. So to find the value for X, okay, I'm going to use this opposite leg and the adjacent leg. Okay, the adjacent leg we know, the opposite leg we don't. And so you have to, when you're solving for something, you start with two things you know to find the third thing. So if you would do tangent, okay, of 68 degrees, you would write that as the opposite leg from the 68 degrees over the adjacent leg. And then that will give us X. So we multiply both sides by 20 to solve it. Okay, to get X alone, you're going to multiply both sides by 20. If you put that in your calculator, 20 times tangent of 68, you get the value for X, which is going to be the segment PQ, to be 49.5, and that would be meters. Okay. They gave us QR to be 20 meters, so we can just start by putting that there, and then to find PR. To find the last two things, you're going to use trigonometry to solve them. So let's look at finding the value for Y, which is PR. To do that, you say, okay, that involves me talking about the values they gave us, which should be this side, which is the adjacent leg, and we're looking to find the hypotenuse. So the ratio that talks about the angle and those two sides, the one we know and the one we don't, would be cosine. Okay, and so we're going to say, okay, cosine of 68 degrees is equal to the adjacent leg over the hypotenuse. And so to solve for Y, remember, you can interchange these two values. So Y is equal to the quotient of 20 over cosine of 68. And so if you find that quotient, you're going to get the value to be 53.4, and that'd be meters. Okay, so to solve the triangle, we need all the missing sides and all the missing angles, and you can only use in your math, the values that are given. Okay, and so for the first one, you're going to find the third of the things that you know two of. So we knew two angles, we found the third one by subtraction. And then to find the two remaining sides, we did trigonometry. On the first question we knew two sides, so we did Pythagorean theorem to find the third side. And then we did trigonometry to find the two missing angles. Okay, again, we always only go with what is given to help you solve this. Okay, on the back, if you look at some word problems, they're saying, if you have a 20-degree angle, what would be the height of this shape? Okay, with regard to the angle they gave you, this is the opposite leg, and this is the hypotenuse. And so the ratio that talks about opposite and hypotenuse would be sine. So sine of 20 degrees is equal to X over 3.5. To solve this, you multiply both sides by 3.5, and 3.5 times sine of 20 will give us a value of, 1.2 feet. Okay, if your calc isn't giving you these answers, it might be in radians. Okay, so you may want to talk to me or talk to your parents and say, hey, how can I get this in degrees, not radians? You can grade a road. Okay, it's a slope. It's how steep something is. If I give it a grade of 8%, percent means out of 100. That means the rise over the run of a hill is going to be 8 over 100, if that's the percent. So the rise is 8, the run is 100. And what they want is not the hypotenuse, they want theta. They want that angle it makes. Okay, how steep is that angle? So the trig ratio that's related to that is going to be the opposite and then the adjacent to that angle. So you would do tangent of theta is equal to 8 over 100. To solve this, you're going to do the inverse tangent of both sides. So if you do theta is equal to the inverse tangent of 8 over 100, you're going to get the value for theta. And that will put it at 7.99 degrees or 8 degrees. Okay, depending where I want you to round it. So thank you and have a good day.